Welcome back to the Hannahcast YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about November Oscar predictions for the category of Best Picture. If you want to have more content, I have memberships available. We have a bunch of new videos, some of which include me talking about, if Wicked is going to be like a big Oscar contender and reacting to some of the reactions coming out of it, and reading your comments on videos. It's just a lot of really cool stuff. There's actually quite a lot of videos, so if you want to become a member, consider becoming one. It means a lot. It means a lot, especially if we can get to 8, because if we get to 8, then we get a lot more emojis. So, yeah. But anyways, on with the video, all right? Let's start with Best Picture. I guess Best Picture today is all we're doing. But, yeah. I know we're going through this thing where it's like, where is Sing? Why hasn't it been released? And a lot of people are saying, well, it's going to be Honora or it's going to be The Brutalist. But I still think at the end of the day, it's going to be Sing. Because mainly because its package just makes the most sense for me, and its path. Because, let's take a look at Honora. All right, Honora, yeah, it's going to win original screenplay, sure. But is it going to win director? I don't know about that. Because you still need to be kind of like a bigger scale film to win director. Even if it's something like Parasite. Like, Parasite still had, like, large sets and even quite a few visual effects shots. And, like, you could see, like, the full-on craft going on at hand. Honora, granted, okay, I've not seen Honora, but I'm kind of going off of the trailers and clips. And every time I'm seeing it, it's like, it's a very small indie. It's a very small indie. And, again, maybe my tune will change when I see it. But right now, it just does not scream a directing winner to me. It seems like something that would win original screenplay. All right. Well, a lot of people are saying that, Mikey Madison could win lead actress. But again, I'm just not so sure about that. Like, she's such a newcomer compared to previous best lead actress winners. Even Brie Larson had a more eclectic, filmography to back her up. But with Mikey Madison, yeah, she had an appearance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but she was also not one of the standouts, really. So that makes things kind of tricky. So it's like, is it like, I don't know, would it win off of screenplay alone? Like, what was it called? Like Spotlight? Again, I don't really know about that. I just don't really know if it, again, Spotlight proved that it can happen, but do I think it will happen? I'm not so sure about that. And, we have Emilia Perez, and Emilia Perez, you could see, for one, we already got an acting winner. Maybe not locked up, but it's looking like Zoe Saldana is going to win. And again, I could see the movie winning a lot of Oscars. International feature, Best Original Song, maybe Best Original Score. So you pair that up with, supporting actress. Well, then if you have either director or screenplay, well then, yeah, that makes a very good Best Picture winner. And on the preferential ballot, like Honora, Emilia Perez would do very well. So that makes sense, but at the same time, would it win director or screenplay? Because that's the thing. That's the thing that's kind of been bugging me. Because it's like, I don't know if it wins director or screenplay. Again, it does fit the bill for a directing winner more than Honora, in that it actually is kind of like a larger scale production, and for goodness sakes, it's a musical. But the fact of the matter is that I feel like Brady Corbett is just too strong in director to lose it to Emilia Perez, especially considering The Brutalist is way more acclaimed than Emilia Perez. Which again, you could maybe say that, well, why wouldn't I have The Brutalist winning Best Picture? Well, that's because unlike director, Best Picture is in a preferential ballot. And while I could see The Brutalist could maybe get the most #1 votes, but is it going to survive a preferential ballot? Well, I don't know about that. And hearing some of the stuff about this film, about how it's like a 3.5 hour long, period piece, I don't know if it wins Best Picture. Because, this is the kind of film where it would die in the preferential ballot. Now, people are going to say, well, we just had Oppenheimer. I want to call you guys horses because Oppenheimer is not the same kind of film. Because Oppenheimer is a Christopher Nolan film. All right, audiences have already loved Christopher Nolan movies, like from the beginning. And so when you have Christopher Nolan, who always like rakes in the box office, I mean, good God, look at Interstellar. Interstellar, when it first came out, people were like, all right, it's pretty good. But the reputation of that film has just grown exponentially to where like even like the most normies of normies think it's like one of the best films of the 2010s. So like Christopher Nolan's kind of operating on a whole nother level. And when you have that kind of a filmmaker making a biopic about the man who created the atomic bomb, well, of course that's going to win Best Picture. But The Brutalist is just like, Brady Corbett is just not Christopher Nolan. He's not been blowing away people with these kind of big blockbusters for like over over 2 decades at this point. So that's the problem. I feel like The Brutalist is going to win some things like cinematography and director, lead actor perhaps, but I just don't think it's going to survive a preferential ballot. Now, going back to Sing Sing, it just makes the most sense to me. It would do very well on a preferential ballot because everyone who sees this movie falls in love with it. It can win adapted screenplay. Like that's a wide open field for it to win. Like Clarence Macklin can absolutely win supporting actor. Like, I just don't think anyone is really that strong. I know people are going to try to say, well, what about Guy Pearce? I just don't know if he has the kind of narrative behind him that Clarence Macklin does. And again, considering if you love Sing Sing and you want it to win Best Picture, well, then you're going to vote for Clarence Macklin to win supporting actor. And I can easily see Sing Sing winning SAG Ensemble. So when you put that all together, it just still makes the most sense. Now, and again, the only thing that has kept Sing Sing further out in the conversation amongst other people is that A24 has just not fully released it. They released it for a week and then pulled it out of theaters. Which again, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of have my own little conspiracy about that because, what if this is A24 trying to generate more buzz for Sing Sing because they got The Brutalist. And really, in the grand scheme of things, I could see The Brutalist being a number 2 in the sense that it's the power of the dog, where it starts winning the critics' circles. It's going to win the Golden Globe drama category. It could maybe win Critics' Choice. It could probably win BAFTA. And we see it as the frontrunner, but at the preferential ballot, that's where things start to fall apart. And for something like The Brutalist, I don't think it's going to really get SAG Ensemble. I mean, it might get a SAG Ensemble nomination, but I'm not really anticipating it. But still, A24 has The Brutalist, and so what they could literally just do is when The Brutalist inevitably starts running out of steam and it doesn't look like it's winning Best Picture, boom, they got Sing Sing, they can throw all the screeners at every voter, bring the cast out, because, again, people love seeing the ensemble for this film, and again, it's probably going to win SAG Ensemble, and it's even being given an award at the Gotham Awards. Yeah, the Gotham Social Justice Tribute. And again, they're going to bring the cast, and it's being presented to the cast, so they're going to bring that cast out. Everyone who sees Sing Sing absolutely loves it. The only thing stopping Sing Sing from potentially winning Best Picture is the fact that people have not seen it. But eventually, they're going to have to see it, because I know, I know some people are even going as far as to say, it's not going to get nominated at Golden Globe or, Critics' Choice or something like that. It's like, what are you talking about? It's not that, even if you don't think it's, number 1, it's still firmly in Best Picture. It's not going to suddenly miss Best Picture, guys. And it's definitely not going to be Tick, Tick, Boom, because really the only thing Tick, Tick, Boom had going for it in terms of Oscar nominations was lead actor and editing, which are good, but it didn't have screenplay, it didn't have director, it didn't have any of that. Sing Sing, adapted screenplay is practically guaranteed. So it's not going to suddenly miss Best Picture. And when it gets into Best Picture, people are going to see it and they are going to vote. I just think at the end of the, like, again, I'm not anticipating the Sing to win all the precursors, but it needs to win the right, to quote Matt Neglia, it needs to win the right ones. You know, can it score a adapted screenplay win at the Critics' Choice Awards? Can it win adapted screenplay at the BAFTAs? Which, right now, Conclave is looking pretty strong in that angle. Especially with it doing well in the box office, but we'll get into Conclave a little bit later. But, however, as long as because it's not Writers Guild eligible, so Sing needs to win Critics' Choice and BAFTA, unless it like miraculously wins Golden Globe. But I'm not really anticipating that, because the Golden Globes typically give their best screenplay awards to original screenplays, unless you're Aaron Sorkin. Then you can win screenplay off of an adapted screenplay. But right now, I just like what could win for Anora? It could maybe win the Golden Globe for comedy musical film, unless Emilia Perez takes that cake, which we don't really know how the new Globes are going to go. Like, are the new Globes going to vote for Emilia Perez? We'll have to see. If this were the old Globes, then yeah, I would absolutely say Emilia Perez is beating Anora. But the pure fact that this is the new Globes and they like the more acclaimed films, I don't know if Emilia Perez is going to beat Anora. So right now I have Anora winning Golden Globe comedy musical film. And at the Critics' Choice Awards, I mean, maybe it's Anora, but I'm kind of thinking the Critics' Choice Awards will just fall in line with The Brutalist. And then BAFTA, again, I could see The Brutalist winning there. It all just depends on what PGA and SAG does. Because I could definitely see Sing doing well at SAG, winning SAG Ensemble, and PGA, I mean, that's where The Brutalist is just going to die. So that's kind of my thing here. All right. And yeah, and Dune Part 2 is just happy to be there. You know, it's not going to win as many Oscars as the first one, and I still don't think it gets a director nomination, but this is like one of the locked in nominations. Like, I would like, you can't convince me that Dune Part 2, especially in this year, is missing Best Picture. And we can sort of go into the second half of the category of Best Picture in my top 10. And Conclave, I've moved up to number 6. I really shouldn't have doubted this movie throughout the entire year, but it has become very, 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 very apparent that people love Conclave. It is overperforming at the box office. Older people, they're loving this movie, which is amazing. Like, wow, like they're actually interested in Conclave. So I think it is very much, I think at this point, there are 6 guaranteed nominees for Best Picture at the Oscars next year. Sing, Emilia Perez, Anora, The Brutalist, Dune, and Conclave. Those are the ones that I can confidently say they are absolutely getting in. And then you have the last 4, which have been very much contested throughout many people. Right now, I will still stick with The Complete Unknown. I know a lot of people are going, well, we haven't seen A Complete Unknown yet. Oh, something just fell over there. But yeah, they're saying, we haven't seen A Complete Unknown. It hasn't come out yet, and they're still working on it right now. That is true, but this is Oscar predictions, and I'm going to try to predict where things go. And I just think A Complete Unknown is going to be safe enough to get into Best Picture. And what I mean by safe, it's that safe pick, a musical biopic. And look, when James Mangold locks in for a sort of prestige kind of film, they typically tend to do very well. Walk the Line would have gotten a Best Picture nomination if there were 10 slots. Logan got adapted screenplay, and Ford v Ferrari got Best Picture. And now people will go, well, what about Indiana Jones? Like, that was obviously never going to do it. Like, that's a big, commercial kind of film. That was never going to do anything. But when James Mangold locks in for prestige filmmaking, they tend to do very well. And I'm just going to say, I think A Complete Unknown is going to be that film that even if film Twitter doesn't like the fact that it's getting in, it's going to get in. It's going to be that maestro, where it's going to become film Twitter's enemy. But regardless, I just think A Complete Unknown makes the most sense. And it makes more sense to me than something like A Real Pain, which is Searchlight's other biggest contender. Because, I've not seen A Real Pain, but again, looking at the trailers, looking at the clips, I'm just like, this just does not scream Best Picture to me. It screams something more like The Big Sick, where, you know, it might be a bit popular and stuff, but at the same time, there's not really much to nominate. Because in terms of Best Picture, for, you know, A Real Pain, it's either original screenplay and Kieran Culkin or bust. Now, people are going to say, well, I mean, you know, Women Talking only had 2 nominations, and Past Lives only had 2 nominations. True, but at the same time, those movies were like big, like Oscar contenders, where it's like you knew it was getting into Best Picture. It was a guarantee that it was going to get into, that they were going to get into Best Picture. And same thing with Selma. But the problem with The Real Pain is that it's not it's not locked in. It's not one of those films that you can just guarantee is going, oh yeah, that's getting into Best Picture. Like, it's still on the edge, and if it's on the edge, and it's only hanging on to, like, at best, like, 3 nominations, picture, supporting actor, and screenplay, I don't really think I want to predict that right now. At least for a film that's, like, iffy in Best Picture. The Room Next Door, I'm still going with The Room Next Door. I know some people are saying, well, but Christian, you know, just because it won the Golden Lion doesn't mean it won't, you know, it doesn't mean it'll win, no, not win, but it'll be nominated for Best Picture. But again, I'm just like, that's still a pretty good stat. And again, it's not like something, you know, like All the Beauty and the Bloodshed and whatever films that were made that from people that I've never even heard of before. Like, The Room Next Door is Pedro Almodovar, and he's very popular, and his films, even if they are not in Best Picture, will get nominations. I mean, and I'm wondering what the Globes are going to do, because again, this is the new Globes, but at the same time, you know, it's still, like, do they still like Pedro Almodovar? And again, this film may still do well with international voters. Like, even if American voters view the dialogue as kind of cringe, maybe international voters might like it. So I am kind of going with that. And so, yeah. Then we get to The Seed of the Sacred Fig. I have seen this movie. It's pretty great. I thought it was actually very well done. And I thought, you know, yeah, this could probably get director. Obviously, international features locked in. Original screenplay. Actually, no, maybe I don't have it in director right now. But I guess this is another thing where it's like the nominations are kind of wonky, but I could see BAFTA turning out for this. Like, I don't really think something like BAFTA would do A Real Pain any good, but Seed of the Sacred Fig, that does make sense to me. It also is very relevant. It's sort of a thriller and it's political. I kind of like this, and also the narrative behind it, where the director is like on the run from the Iranian government, and that, you know, like, oh, he wasn't allowed to make this film. That might be attractive to voters. Like, oh, this is a really important movie that the film's own government doesn't want you to see. And again, it's not like people don't like this movie. Like, I know there are some detractors, but the IMDb score is still very good. The Rotten Tomatoes score is very good. The Metacritic score is very good. Even the Letterboxd score is very good. There is a fan base for this film. There, like, the people that love this movie really, really love it. And I feel like they're going to lead it to a Best Picture nomination. And this is where I'm taking my swing right now, and that is Juror number 2. I had Nickel Boys in. You know, I had Blitz in for a bit, because Warner Brothers has absolutely fucked this movie. That's what they did, because they are releasing this only in 50 theaters in the US, and are not even going to report box office results. And apparently they weren't even planning on, you know, starting an awards campaign. But then it came out, and not only are the reviews pretty damn good for a Clint Eastwood film, like, his films have been divisive as of recently, but this one seems to be a little bit more agreeable. Like, oh yeah, we really like this movie. And not only that, I think on Rotten Tomatoes, it has like over 90%, which is, actually, let me check. It has a 91 on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 7.4 on IMDb, a 72 on Metacritic. Like, if older voters really wanted to go out for this film, they could, here's the thing. Warner Brothers apparently saw the response for this film and kind of course corrected, saying, "Oh no, yeah, we will do a small awards campaign for this." And I feel like, I don't know, this is kind of my theory. What if Warner Brothers is just really not, like, what if more people are going to see this movie than Warner Brothers thought, and they like slowly like release it? It's like, all right, yeah, we'll put it wide, we'll put it wider, because this surely does not sound like a smart idea financially, just only putting it in 50 theaters. Like, something's not right. Why would they do this with a Clint Eastwood movie that is getting probably some of the best reviews a Clint Eastwood film has had since maybe $1 Million Baby? Or maybe the more accurate example would be like, you know, either Flags of Our Fathers or Letters from Iwo Jima. Or Letters to Iwo Jima. I forget which one it was, to or from. But still, the fact that this is getting very good reviews, I'm just like, I don't know, something's just not right here. I just feel like when people are going to see this movie, they're going to come up, especially the older audiences, like especially, that's what I'm kind of keeping in mind. Older voters would probably really love Juror number 2. Again, it's not as controversial as some of his other films, and apparently, given with the reviews, I was right, because that was one of my guesses, was that Juror number 2 was not going to be like controversial or even really as like low received as some of his other films, and I was right. Like, Juror number 2 is very well received for the most part, and so I am putting this into Best Picture again, because I just feel like there is something tells me that we might see a groundswell for this. It's not going to be instant, but the more as award season goes on, maybe this does start getting PGA. Maybe it does start getting DGA, and it's probably going to make WGA as well, considering the field is very weak. So the guilds might end up going very hard for this film, and we could see Juror number 2 as like a late breaking film. And that's kind of what makes sense to me. Now, let's talk about some of the other films here, alright? Like Nickel Boys. I did have Nickel Boys in, but I don't know. Like, if it were to be in Best Picture, I could see it getting picture, adapted screenplay, maybe Ingenue Ellis. Would it get director, though? I'm not sure. Like, let me look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, because, like, I think it actually has gotten better as time has gone on. Like, let me look. Yep, it has an 85% of Rotten Tomatoes and an 8.6 out of 10 average rating. That's really strong. That admittedly is very strong, but it's also very experimental. Like, it's not like The Zone of Interest, where it's like, we kind of know the environment here. We're just seeing it in a very different lens. This is not really what Nickel Boys is. Nickel Boys is something completely different in terms of its subject matter and the way it's presenting the narrative. So that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, is that going to be in? Because, like, I'm also trying to figure out what precursors it would get. Like, would the Critics' Choice Awards do it? Because they typically try to predict the Oscars more. And I don't think it would get cinematography, because I feel like it seems like the narrative for the cinematography could be stronger than the actual cinematography itself. But again, I don't know that. We'll have to see. Blitz, you know, classic Oscar bait. You know, you could see this getting picture, original screenplay, supporting actress, production design, cinematography, sound. Sure. But at the same time, I'm looking at the trailer and it's like, I don't know. I don't really know about this. I definitely don't see cinematography happening. And I guess its nominations would just kind of depend on how strong Blitz is overall, because I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the film. Yeah, at 77%, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure if this is going to be like a big Best Picture thing, especially considering this is being considered like one of Steve McQueen's weakest films. That is a bit of a concern that I have. So we'll have to see about that. And then there's Wicked, which, man, people are like, the social media reactions are coming out for Wicked. People absolutely love it. They are going nuts for it. And it's going to have a gigantic opening weekend. Like, I think domestically it was going to be over like $100 million. That's pretty big. And so it's definitely going to make a lot of money. I really want to know how the reviews are going to be, because if the reviews are like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes plus, all right, then yeah, maybe I would consider it for Best Picture. But right now, I don't know. I guess I have to be seen to be believed. And granted, I know this sounds like I'm contradicting myself with A Complete Unknown, but A Complete Unknown is more traditional Oscar bait that I could probably see. Wicked is just such a wild card. I don't know if that's happening or not. Now, I could definitely see the Critics' Choice Awards going for it. The Critics' Choice would probably do this. It might get the Golden Globe nomination for Comedy Musical Picture, but even then, that's a maybe. I don't know if that's actually happening. And also, in terms of acting nominations, I don't think it gets anything. Like, I know a lot of the reviews are saying, well, not reviews, but the reactions are saying, oh, but Ariana Grande steals the show. I really don't know. Like, is Ariana Grande going to get an Oscar nomination for Wicked? That's my thing. It's like, is she actually going to get nominated for that? I just think with Wicked, it would be like, it would get some text and Best Picture. Like, maybe it would have to be like a Nightmare Alley for me. Unless it's like looking like, you know, Ariana Grande could win. But even then, like, I don't know. Because if you're not really in Best Picture and you're a musical performance, you don't really win that much. You know, look at Danielle Brooks. She didn't win. Andrew Garfield, he didn't win. Who else? Penelope Cruz for 9. She didn't win. So, I kind of only want to predict Wicked if I think Ariana Grande is, like, winning lead actress. And I don't even think she's getting nominated. So, I think this is going to be one of those films that, like, tries to be a thing early on, but it doesn't really fizzle into anything. Maybe it's like Mary Poppins Returns. Maybe that would be that'd probably be a good, comparison, even though I don't think there's any like big original songs that are like oh yeah, locked in easy. September 5, again, I'm not exactly sure about this one. I mean, it does sound pretty Oscar bait, but also I'm kind of only thinking it's screenplay or bust, because I don't even know if it gets editing. I don't think it gets any acting nominations. I'm just like, I don't know. Everything about it just feels kind of manufactured in order to get it some Oscar buzz. But I don't know. And then we have Gladiator 2, which honestly, like, I don't, like, it's sort of like Wicked. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Gladiator 2 in terms of its response. I mean, people seem to really like it, and I have seen more critical, you know, reactions of Gladiator 2 rather than Wicked. So, but I do think Denzel Washington's getting a supporting actor nomination, and it's practically guaranteed in production design, costume design, and visual effects. It might get sound, who knows? But I don't. It might even get Critics' Choice, maybe, or would it get PGA? That's kind of what I'm wondering. But overall, it's like I don't really see it. Also, I don't see it winning anything. Which, granted, you could also say Nightmare Alley didn't win anything, sure, but I just don't know. Like, it doesn't look like it's going to be as big. Like, it doesn't look like it's going to be as big of a contender in a lot of other categories. Like, for example, even Nightmare Alley was nominated at the Writers Guild Awards for Adapted Screenplay, which, granted, you could also argue, well, Gladiator 2 could get nominated because it's also, like, it's not a very strong year for the Writers Guild Awards. That is true. That is true. So, I don't really know, but right now I'm going to say not right now. The Piano Lesson. I don't know. Like, something tells me we might be underestimating it a bit. The reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are still very strong, and I could maybe see it getting a SAG Ensemble nomination. Also, Danielle Deadwyler is probably getting nominated for Supporting Actress. Again, I don't think it's going... And also, another thing that it kind of has going for it that's not like other August Wilson play adaptations is that, it from what people have been saying, it's way more cinematic than, you know, Fences or Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, where they were basically the stage shows but put on screen. This one actually does apparently take advantage of the film medium a lot more, which is interesting. But they also say that it has supernatural elements, so I don't know. But I don't, like, who knows, maybe it can squeeze into adapted screenplay, considering it actually does adapt more of the source material. But I guess the other thing is, like, who else would get nominated in terms of acting? Because we know Danielle Deadwyler could probably get in, and people are saying that Samuel L. Jackson is like a no-show in the film. And if any, but at the same time, I also do think John David Washington's getting nominated at the SAG Awards. So, because they just love August Wilson play adaptations. So maybe that happens. A Real Pain, again, I only really see its prospects in like original screenplay and supporting actor, because really it's kind of that, and I don't know if it's really strong enough to be in Best Picture with those two, especially when we have a much more like baity film like A Complete Unknown, which granted we don't know the response from A Complete Unknown, but I am kind of going off of the assumption that it will be like at least well received enough to get into Best Picture. And then we have The Wild Robot, and this is one that I'm keeping my eye on. I'm keeping my eye on this film, because animated films have traditionally not been very liked by the Academy all that much. And the past two that have been nominated, they have had this package: screenplay, what was it? Sound editing, score or song, and yeah, obviously animated. What was it? Like Toy Story 3 got picture, adapted screenplay, animated feature, sound editing, and it won Best Original Song. And with Up, it was Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, Best Animated Feature, Best Sound Editing, and Best Original Score, which it won. With The Wild Robot, I feel like it needs those nominations. Like, I need to start, like, because it can't just be like Spider-Verse, where in the Critics Awards, they were giving it lots of Best Picture nominations, but then look what happened. No one nominated it for Best Adapted Screenplay. I mean, okay, some of them did, but for the most part, it's like they didn't really take the nomination seriously. It's like you're going to nominate it for Best Picture, and yet you don't nominate it for Adapted Screenplay for a film that is praised for its writing? So with The Wild Robot, I need to see that happen. I need to see it get some screenplay nominations, which is going to be kind of tough, because the only two that we kind of have that would do it are the Critics' Choice Awards and the BAFTAs. And will they do it? Because it is tough. The Wild Robot is, really when I look at it, generally more acclaimed than movies like The Boy and the Heron, Spider-Verse, what was it? Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Generally speaking, you can see some differences here and there, but overall, the response for The Wild Robot is a lot stronger than some of those films. I mean, obviously, Spider-Verse captured the pop cultural zeitgeist way more than The Wild Robot, but also it did have more detractors than The Wild Robot. More people seem to be agreeing on The Wild Robot being very good than Spider-Verse. So it does have that. And I could see a score nomination coming, or a song nomination coming. And sound, I mean, you're mixing nature sounds with the metal robot sounds. Like, that could be impressive. And there is like a big action sequence, so you could nominate it for sound there. It all just depends on screenplay. Can it get adapted screenplay? Because on one hand, it's not like it's very strong out there in terms of competition. Because I'm looking at the Awards Expert app right now, and right now, I guess, okay, it's kind of tough. Like, the top four I have are Sing, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Dune Part 2, and then that fifth slot could either be The Room Next Door, Nickel Boys, or maybe A Complete Unknown. But again, I guess with A Complete Unknown, it kind of depends on, like, if it's actually going to be, like, a very gripping screenplay, which it might not even be. But I do want to prioritize Best Picture nominees first above anything else. So I do have The Room Next Door at the number 5 slot, but if it's looking like The Wild Robot could get into Best Picture, like, let's say it gets into Comedy Musical Picture at the Golden Globes, well, then that means a lot. That means a lot, because the Golden Globes, before Best Animated Feature, before that category was introduced, they used to love nominating animated films for Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy. You know, Beauty and the Beast won. Aladdin was nominated. What was it? The Lion King won. Toy Story was nominated. Toy Story 2 won. Chicken Run was nominated. Finding Nemo was nominated. The Incredibles was nominated. Shrek was nominated. They loved animated films in Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy. If Wild Robot can get that, then, oh boy, that's a good sign. And I guess it all depends on what what everyone, because I don't think, like, on what everyone else does. Because Critics' Choice, for me to believe that The Wild Robot is serious, okay, well, I guess if it got the Golden Globe nomination, then that would be pretty strong, because I do think it's getting in, like, I do think it would get in over Saturday Night, because Saturday Night, no one cares about that movie. Like, no one really likes that movie all that much. And The Wild Robot is just generally more acclaimed. If this were the old Globes, I'd be concerned. But the new Globes, I mean, they snubbed The Color Purple in favor of Air. And that, like, when you look at you look at Rotten Tomatoes, like, the percentage of people that liked Air was stronger than that of The Color Purple. And so, The Wild Robot kind of trumps Saturday Night in that regard at the Globes. And I don't really expect, I don't think it needs screenplay at the Globes for me to be convinced, but if it gets nominated for Best Picture Musical or Comedy, that's going to be pretty significant, especially considering, really, in the grand scheme of things, I'm looking at the Best Picture Musical Comedy category at the Globes. The only film, really, that's more acclaimed than The Wild Robot is Sing Sing. That's kind of the only, no, not Sing Sing, Anora. Anora is really the only film in the musical comedy picture category placements at the Globes that I feel like is more acclaimed than The Wild Robot. So that does mean a lot. And people could probably say, well, what about Spider-Verse? Spider-Verse didn't get nominated for musical comedy picture at the Golden Globes. Yeah, but it also didn't even win Best Animated Feature. So it's like, how were we, it probably wasn't going to, it probably just wasn't that popular anyway. But whereas with The Wild Robot, it doesn't really have a Boy and the Heron kind of contender. Because Inside Out 2, I've kind of thought, yeah, Inside Out 2 is not really looking that strong. Hell, looking at it, I'm not even convinced Inside Out 2 is number 2 anymore. Because now the reactions from Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, have come out. And now they're saying that, oh, this is a masterpiece. This is wonderful. So now I'm thinking, oh my god, Inside Out 2 is literally number 3 for Best Animated Feature. Because, like, the review, not the reviews, but actually, yeah, the reviews. Because they actually have come out with the reviews for Wallace and Gromit. They are much stronger than that of Inside Out 2. And, there's honestly a good chance that Wallace and Gromit could win the BAFTA for Best Animated Feature. Now, where is this all coming to? Well, basically, I don't see a Boy and the Heron versus Spider-Verse situation of the Globes with The Wild Robot versus Inside Out 2, because Inside Out 2 is probably like number 3 to win Best Animated Feature. It's not even number 1. It's not even number 2 anymore. So the Wild Robot kind of has animated feature all to itself, and if it can squeeze that Golden Globe nomination, that's a great sign. If it gets Critics' Choice, that's also a very good sign, only if it gets adapted screenplay. Because if The Wild Robot gets Best Picture at the Critics' Choice Awards, but does not get adapted screenplay, then it's in trouble. Because, like, when you look at Toy Story 3 and Up, they got nominated for Best Picture at Critics' Choice, and they also got screenplay. But when you look at films that you can see Critics' Choice was trying to go for in Best Picture, but they clearly didn't care enough to nominate them in screenplay, you get movies like Saltburn, you get movies like RRR, you get movies like, I think Tick, Tick, Boom didn't get a screenplay nomination at the Critics' Choice Awards. They also didn't nominate Uncut Gems for screenplay. So when the Critics' Choice Awards are trying to go for something, like when they're trying to push something in Best Picture, if they don't nominate it in screenplay, that's kind of a bad sign. Now, it's not always foolproof. You know, for example, what was it called? First Man got Best Picture, Director, Screenplay at the Critics' Choice Awards, and that didn't really manifest into a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars. But generally speaking, if it got adapted screenplay at the Critics' Choice Awards, I'll be like, okay, maybe it's happening. And then we would need to see BAFTA. Obviously, BAFTA's not going to nominate The Wild Robot for Best Film. But again, adapted screenplay, if it gets nominated there, just like how Up and Toy Story 3 got nominated, well then, oh boy, then The Wild Robot's getting a Best Picture nomination, most likely. And also, another thing you have to realize is find out if it gets PGA nominated. because that's also major. Because I don't think the PGA have nominated an animated film for Best Picture since Toy Story 3. So if that actually gets it at PGA, then it might be done. Because, like, so that's the thing. I just need to start seeing screenplay happening. But I don't know. Again, I guess if it did get the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and PGA nominations, I might be willing to go for it. But I need evidence of screenplay. Animated films these days just need screenplay to get nominated. So that's the thing I'm really concerned about. It's like, is Wild Robot getting screenplay there? So yeah, basically it needs a good haul of nominations to have. And then you have Saturday Night. I don't really think people care about the film all that much. Again, it's not doing well at the box office. Again, I don't even think it gets nominated for Comedy Musical Picture of the Globes. That's how far I'm willing to say that I don't think Saturday Night's happening. Even though it does make sense on paper. It makes sense on paper, but it just seems like no one cares. And then we have The Substance, which I have at the bottom, aside from Madam Web sweep. Let's go. The Substance, this deserves a Best Picture nomination. But I'm concerned, is it actually going to do it? Again, just like with The Wild Robot, I need to start seeing screenplay happening. I know some people are saying, oh, well, director is very important. I don't even think it needs to director in order to get into Best Picture. All it needs is original screenplay. Like, if it can get screenplay, then it's in. It's in. You get Best Picture, you get original screenplay, you get makeup, because if it's nominated for Best Picture, you know for damn sure it's going to get nominated for makeup. And maybe Demi Moore, but again, this lead actress is already very, like, crowded as is, so we'll have to see, but screenplay would almost be enough for me to go, okay, we'll have to, well, aside from it getting clear, like, Best Picture nominations in other places. So we'll have to see about The Substance. Again, but it's also just the horror bias that I'm worried about. I don't know if it's gonna succeed due to, like, the clear horror bias that, you know, the Academy has. And people are saying, well, Get Out got nominated. True, but also Get Out had a whole year to build up that buzz. Like, it was in theaters. It did incredibly well. Held a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And then it went to, you know, streaming and DVD and Blu-ray and stuff. People bought that and watched it again and again and again. Whereas The Substance is kind of coming out at the last third of the year. And it's definitely gotten very good reviews, especially, you know, from audiences compared to other horror movies. And it did pretty well at the box office for what it was. But it's just not as big as something like Get Out. Actually, let me check. Yeah, it's also not even really, Black Swan, because Black Swan made $329 million. You kind of need to be like a box office giant if you're going to be a horror movie in Best Picture. And I just don't think The Substance is that. It made money for the amount of budget that it had, but I just don't think it's going to manifest into a Best Picture nomination. So that's kind of the thing. Like, it's not capturing the pop culture zeitgeist like Black Swan or Get Out. So that's the kind of problem I have. Like, I just don't know if that's happening. Regardless, those are my Best Picture Oscar predictions for the month of November. Now I'm going to pass the question off to you. What do you think are your Best Picture predictions for November? Next week, we're going to be talking about director and screenplay. We're going to be talking about those categories. And I'm probably going to see what other kind of videos I can try to do as well. I'm definitely going to get out more members only videos. Again, consider becoming a member. It really means a lot. And thank you to my members that are already subscribed. We have a ton of fun. Also, speaking of which, in terms of the memberships, I'm going to be reviewing one of two movies because I'm going to try to start reviewing more Best Picture nominees for the members channel. But, however, only 2 people have voted, because the choices are Chicago and The King's Speech. And right now it is deadlocked. We have 1 vote for the King's Speech and 1 vote for Chicago. We need someone to break that tie. Maybe you could be a member and start and vote. You have your voice heard. What do you want me to review? Thank you so much for watching, and consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you don't, you'll be the substance.